I want you to imagine a lady, and she has the same routine every night. When it gets close to bedtime, she goes through her house, she closes the doors, and she locks them. She turns off the lights, and she heads to bed. Except one night, when she is checking all of those doors, and she's locking them, she just misses one. She's probably done it 100 times before, but that particular night, she doesn't get that door locked. She goes to bed, and she thinks everything's great. Everything's safe. Everything's wonderful. Everything's the way that it always has been. She doesn't sleep any differently, and luckily nothing bad happens at night. But as she sleeps, and she sleeps soundly, she does not realize that there's danger right in front of her. I mean, the night is different, but she doesn't really feel any different. It feels safe. Or think about the end of a day. Man, maybe you've had a big, busy day at work. Had a lot of stuff going on. You get home and there's stuff that has to be done at the house. So you've worked all day, you get home, there's stuff that has to be done at the house. You know, maybe it's school time and the kids need help with homework, and then you got to take care of the kids, and then you got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to fix dinner, and you got all these things going on. And finally, it just gets down to later in the evening, and you're finally alone, and you sit down and you just plop down in your favorite chair right where you're all comfortable, and you get out your phone and you start doing like we do on our phones. We start scrolling. And we scroll and we scroll, and we're looking at all kind of things, you know. Maybe we're looking at Facebook, maybe we're watching YouTube videos, maybe we're trying how to fix something that we don't know how to fix, and we're just sitting there and mindlessly going through our phones the way that we typically do when we're doing that. And our mind starts to wander, and scrolling kind of becomes lingering, and then something comes across our screen and our attention settles where our shouldn't settle. And all of a sudden, now the images or the videos or the things that are coming across our phone are really not things we need to be watching at all. They're just the wrong content. And you can label that content whatever you want. Maybe it's sexual content, maybe it's political content, maybe it's somebody griping about something content. It's just not content that we need to be spending our time watching and looking at. Now, at the moment in that section, neither one of those they don't really feel wrong. It's just something that's a little unguarded. It feels kind of safe because we're in our own house, but the safety doesn't really seem to be like the safety that we need. And it brings to mind a scripture. It's just a really short scripture. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They went to fight the Ammonites, and then it says, but David remained in Jerusalem. There's no pressure there. There's no enemy pressing in on him. There's no visible threat. You sometimes wonder, why in the world did he stay home? Where are kings supposed to be in the springtime of the war? When it says literally in the text, when the changes around, where are they supposed? Well, they're supposed to go to war. But David doesn't go to war. David stays in a place that's really safe. It's really secure. He's in Jerusalem. He's in his palace, and everything looks like everything is just perfectly fine. It's kind of like castles. Your house kind of becomes a safe castle. I started to go out and take a picture of the castle that's out there on exit 19. You know, I don't know what's happening with the castle. They got a big castle going up out there. And you think, man, if they just built a moat around that thing, it would be safe, wouldn't it? And we think, We got all those things going on. We don't really have to be as much on guard. We don't have to be as much vigilant about things. We can just kind of rest and relax. And I don't know what they say in other parts of the world. In the South, we say we're just going to go home. We're going to kick our feet up, right? That means we're going to go home and just relax, and we're safe there. Everything is perfectly fine. And so when it got time for kings to go off to war, David stayed in his castle. He stayed at home. He stayed where he was safe. And you think, man, that was just a great decision by David, wasn't it? And the next verse, and it says, in the evening time, when the time was evening, David got up from his bed and he walked around. Now, I want to stop for a second. I don't want to make a huge point of this, but I kind of want to make a huge point of it. He walked. The way that word is written, it's not like David just got up and he walked to the kitchen to see what he could find to eat. The idea of that word is he continually walked. We might say he paced. We might say he kind of wandered aimlessly. Maybe you've had one of those. You ever had a night where you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep? Now, I don't know what you do in those moments. I generally do not pace, right? But David paced. David is just walking around on the roof of his house. Round and around and around and around and around. I usually go upstairs and try to read. Thought if I read for a minute, I'll go to sleep. Sometimes it works. Sometimes not so much. David gets up and he starts walking around the roof of his house. And we might say he's bored. Doesn't have anything to do. Now, where's he supposed to be? Supposed to be at war. He's supposed to be in battle. But he didn't feel like he's in battle. He's at home, and he's on the roof of his house, and he's bored. You ever been there? I mean, honestly, have you ever been there? Like, it's evening, and you turn the TV on, and you've binge-watched everything you can find to binge-watch, and there's just not anything else you want to watch. You just cannot find anything on television at all that you want to see. Now, there's a part of my mind that does not understand that at all. In Hornbeak, Tennessee, we got 3 channels. And Gilligan's Island came on every afternoon, right? And then after Gilligan's Island, Mayberry came on, and we had Petticoat Junction, and we just saw the same thing over and over, and we just had our 3 channels, and you watch the 3 channels. Now, we've got, man, I don't know how many channels we've got. I mean, I've got hundreds of channels, right? I mean, hundreds of channels. And not only do I have hundreds of channels, how many of you have a smart TV? Woo, let me see those hands. Smart TV people. Because smart TV people, we can watch YouTube. We can go, I mean, there's all kinds of YouTube and Netflix and Hulu. And, I mean, there's just a wealth. And then we're sitting there and we're thinking, we can't find a thing in the world we want to watch. What in the world are we going to do? Now, I'm not telling you to go home and watch television. I'm just saying sometimes we just kind of get bored, don't we? There's not anything that we want to see. And that's David that night. He's bored. Now, you know where the story's going, don't you? David's walking around on the roof, and then he sees something on the other roof. Right now, the thing he sees on the other roof, the text says, is exceedingly beautiful of appearance. Exceedingly beautiful of appearance. Now, I don't know how far it was from David's roof to Bathsheba's roof, but evidently close enough he could see pretty good. And David said, he inquires, who is that? Now, if you think that when he saw Bathsheba, and she is the wife of Uriah the Hittite, right? and you're thinking, man, that's the first time David's ever known anything in the world about Uriah the Hittite, you would be very wrong. Very wrong. When it lists in Samuel and Chronicles David's 30 fighting men, these are the 30 best fighting men that David has. And there's a list. There's the 3, and the 3 are something else, right? That is not who you want to run into in a dark alley. But outside of the 3, you've got the 30, and you don't want to run into them either. And if you've never noticed, do you know who's listed in the 30 greatest fighting men? Uriah the Hittite. So Uriah is just not like some guy on the front line. He's just not like some guy in the army. I mean, he is one of David's most ferocious fighters. And David sees Bathsheba, and he inquires about her, and he asks about her, and he brings her to his house. What if David had been at war? What if he hadn't been so idle? What if he had had something to do? How many times does idleness just really get us? Now there's a difference between idleness and rest. Okay, y'all, I don't want to go deep into that, but you do realize that, sometimes we rest and we don't have things to do, and we kind of rejuvenate and we get ready for stuff. David's not resting. He's not engaging. He's not up there quoting Bible verses. He is just idle and restless and bored. And there's something else about David being on that roof. He asked about Bathsheba, who she is, but at the same time, all of the people that he would usually consult with, all of the people he would usually rely on, the people that he would usually go to advice, they went to war. And David's there in his isolation and his aloneness. How many times do we get in our isolation, in our aloneness, and we really need somebody around us? Why do we call it a community of believers? Why is it that we need each other? We need each other because we need accountability in that. We need somebody to help watch us. We need somebody to help us make decisions. I mean, I don't think we're going to do this week, but let's play a game, okay? Let's say that whatever you watch on TV this week, we're going to watch next Sunday morning on the big screen while we have church. How many of you, if we put on the screen, this is what Greg watched Monday night. Right, I'll just pick on myself. This is what Greg watched Monday night. And I know that on Sunday morning, we're going to watch whatever I watch on Monday night. That's what we're going to watch Sunday morning at church. Might I just pause if I start to make a bad decision? Just a little bit? And say, Or how about the song? This is the song that we're going to sing Sunday morning, is the song that Greg listens to on Saturday night. And I'll just be honest with you, I was just mindlessly, idly scrolling last night, and I don't know if this is a male thing or if this is a Greg thing. So let's just explore this for a second. Diane and I were watching a show. We could watch the show, by the way, on Sunday morning. It would be okay. But during the commercial, can y'all watch a commercial? During the commercial, I was listening to music on my phone. When it went to commercial, I went to music, right? It's because I didn't want to idly sit there while I watched the commercial. So I was scrolling through music, and a couple of those songs, I'd have to pause and think, I don't know if we could sing those on Sunday morning or not. They were good rock and roll songs, but I'm not quite sure they were good Sunday morning songs. And you say, well, Greg, should you have listened to them? Maybe not. Maybe not. But what happens sometimes is in our isolation, we make really different choices in isolation than we do in community sometimes. If you knew somebody was looking over your shoulder while you were scrolling on your phone, would you always look at the same things you look at when you scroll on your phone, or would you really watch the same YouTube videos you're currently watching. And all I know for David is that night, he's idle. He's got a couple of servants he can send on an errand, but it seems like the people he would normally consult aren't there, so it's kind of idleness and isolation, and it creates a problem. So David, it's a really simple progression, isn't it? Just think about the progression of what happened. David sees something, which is Bathsheba on the roof. Now, this is a total aside, okay? And some people will say, well, what's she doing out on the roof taking a bath anyway? Well, it is the middle of the night. Nobody's supposed to be up, all right? David sees. And then who is that? He inquires. He thinks about something. And he's not just asking who she is, by the way. When he sees that she is very beautiful, he's also thinking about something else, right? We don't have to go in a lot of detail of that. Y'all got that, right? And then what he does, he has a desire, and he follows through with it. And sight leads to thought, which leads to desire, which leads to adultery, which leads to a pregnancy, which leads to murder. Have you ever read that verse and just sat there and thought, it would have been safer for David if he had gone to war? If he had gone to war, he would be watching his surroundings. He would know that danger was lurking and that danger was present. He would have people around him. David would have been safer in war than he was walking around on the roof of his own palace. And I think sometimes that's us. We get in our routine. We get in those areas that we think we're safe. We get in those areas where we think nothing bad is going to happen to us, and we start to let our guard down, and we think all of the enemies are out there on the outside somewhere, and they're not pressing against us. And all of the time, the real enemy is not out there somewhere. The real enemy is in here somewhere. It's what we want and what we desire and what we let our mind go after and what we let our mind think about. So where you've been assuming that you're safe. And when you get in that place, you just let your guard down. And you're not as vigilant or observant or aware. Your mind doesn't really stay as sharp as it should stay, or you don't really think about the things that you really should think about. It's like that open door. You know, she thought she locked the door, but there was one that wasn't locked, and there was danger present, but she didn't really know there was danger present. Where's that unlocked door for you? That you need to, whatever influence that is, whatever thing that is that leads you down the wrong path, the wrong decision that you make, you need to go into your life, you need to close that door, and when you close it, you need to lock it. And it probably wouldn't hurt you to go buy an alarm system and put an alarm system on the door so that when the door opens, you know that it opens. Or maybe it's the scrolling. What do you linger on? I mean, you wouldn't say it's bad, you wouldn't say it's good, it's just something, and maybe bad is a good word for it, it just captures your attention and you just can't seem to get away from it. And you just seem to linger there. You just can't seem to say no. Can't just seem to quit. And it's not always a thing. It's not always a type of content. Sometimes, honestly, it's circumstances. It can be people. It can be relationships. It can be something that we know it's not good for us, but we just can't seem to say no. Or where does your guard come down? I mean, you lower your guard. Now, earlier in the sermon, we talked about the difference between real rest and then what David was encountering, which is kind of a boredom and an idleness. Now, is there a place for rest? I mean, let's be honest. Is there a place for rest? There is definitely a place for rest. In fact, I don't have any statistics on this. Wouldn't want to argue any statistics on it. I would, and Shaw, I know you're going to tell me I'm preaching to the choir, okay? But I think probably the majority of us probably don't take enough rest. We probably don't. We don't probably take enough. I mean, the kind of rest where you can get away from responsibility and rejuvenate and cleanse your mind and get some clarity and focus in life. We're probably not as good at that, at least in my experience. Maybe this is just I'm not good at it. If I tend to have a moment I don't have something to do, what do we tend to do with it? We find something. We find a way to fill it up. We find something to do. We find something we can cram in that spot. We can feel like we got just one more thing done. But the kind of idleness where your guard comes down and then you're mindless about whatever is going on and you're assuming that you're safe, but you're not really safe there, that's a different kind of scenario. That's the scenario that David was in. Boy, if David had been on the battlefield, can you imagine? They're fighting the Ammonites. And they're getting up each morning and they're rushing out into battle. They're besieging, it says in the text, they're besieging a city. So they've got this city surrounded and they're making sure nobody comes into the city or goes out of the city, an embargo kind of situation, so to speak. And you're alert and you're aware and you know what's happening next and you're engaged in battle and you're focused. That's where David should have been. Instead, he's walking around on the roof of his house with idleness and boredom and aloneness and no one to hold him accountable. Sometimes I read through that passage in 2 Samuel chapter 11 where it just simply says, and David stayed in Jerusalem. And we have to ask ourselves, where are we really safe? Where are you really safe? Make sure you stay engaged. Make sure you stay vigilant. Make sure you stay. This past Wednesday night, they don't do this. This past Wednesday night, we were just talking in class, right? And they were talking about things from the retreat that they just had, which we're going to show some pictures of in a second. And by the way, some really cool things happened there. Some really good things happened. And then they started talking about, and let me misrepresent this, you guys that were in there. We talked a little bit about how much we used our phones and scrolling and accountability. And we talked about several of those things, didn't we, Eli? And in all of that, the hike came up, the Appalachian Trail hike. And they were like, And I said, I've never been. But there's something about that when you disconnect and you unplug. And you have a moment that it's not crammed with one thing after another and the next thing and the next thing, and you have some time that you can walk alone with God and spend time alone with God and focus on God. Try to get your mind back on things where your mind ought to be, and you can disconnect from all the busyness of the world. And I feel bad because I looked at them and you know, I was like, man, y'all need to go on this hike, right? Y'all need to go. You want to disconnect from your phone, go on a hike. I don't think the phone works on a hike, and I don't think you can even take it. Can you, Charlie? Don't y'all phone? No. And you, and then I ask myself, yeah, but forget not the hike, but where am I finding time to disconnect? Where am I finding time? Not idleness, not standing on the roof of a house, not mindless. But is my guard really up? Am I really vigilant? Am I really paying attention to all the things that are happening in my life? Or am I like David through most of my life, where I am just walking around on the roof of a house, and what's going to happen with that is I shouldn't go after, all because I was walking around on the roof of the house and I wasn't vigilant. I didn't realize that I was at war. And you're always in a spiritual battle. You're always at war. I asked Josh to lead an invitation song, and Josh, it's an old song. It's a song that probably, man, I remember singing as a teenager. I don't know that I know we've sang it here at Clarksville Highway some, but I kind of want to show a hands. Anybody remember the song, Yield Not to Temptation? All right, a lot of people my age hold their hands up. But it's a really good song, because it says, hey, why don't we stay vigilant? Why don't we stay aware about the things in our lives that can send us down the wrong path? Why don't we focus on what we need to focus on, not like David walking around on the roof of his palace? Maybe you just need to pray about something. You know, I wonder sometimes we say invitation song, and people think they have to come up here and they have to say something, or they have to come up here and tell people something that they've done wrong. And, you know, it's not really like that at all. Maybe you just want to come up here and somebody put their arm around you and pray with you, and you don't really want to say a word. You don't want to confess a particular thing. You just want the love and support of a church. Or maybe you don't even want somebody to pray for you. You just want to come up here and sit quietly and think about something and pray yourself. Or maybe it is one of those situations where you want to give your life to Jesus. You want to experience confession and repentance and baptism, and you want to do that this morning. But if you have a need, we're going to ask you to do that while we sing.